Hi, this is Richard Blade, and you're listening to the Blue Zone Podcast Network as it presents Permanent Record, an in-depth look at the classic albums of the 70s and 80s, albums which have earned a permanent place of honor, both in our hearts and in our record collections.
Welcome, everybody. If you are finding our podcast for the first time due to the really cool Styx connection, this is the Permanent Record Podcast. My name is Brian.
And I'm Sarah. And we are so happy to have you here. We are so happy to be here ourselves and just very excited to share with you this great conversation that we have.
We've had a few chances now over the years to talk with some musicians that we grew up listening to and really enjoy, and it's always a thrill, but I never ever thought that we would get to talk with a member of Styx, particularly Mr. Lawrence Gowan, who we can call Larry.
Right, he said so.
He said so. He's an amazing piano player, an amazing performer and singer, great songwriter. We've been digging his albums since 1999 when we first heard him with Styx. Man, how exciting it was to talk with him today. Yeah,
it was a real thrill. I am still on a high from it.
And of course, we have to give sincere thanks to our brother-in-arms, our brother in podcasting, Mr. Eric Miller of the Pods and Sods Network, who kind of set this up for us.
That's right. Yeah, we have a debt of gratitude to him for mentioning us to Styx publicist and getting us set up with this interview. We are so thankful.
The one thing that is unfortunate with the interview is that he took the time to set up his keyboard. He had it right there in front of him.
Yeah.
And at one point in the interview, he played some of Crash of the Crown for us, the title track from the new Styx album. And Zoom or whatever. I've heard our friend who teaches trumpet lessons said that Zoom does not work for music a lot of times.
Oh.
I don't know if it's just because it's suddenly too loud and Zoom just rushes to shut it off to try to keep the volume level or something. But when he was playing the piano, we could only hear the occasional note and it sounded really warbly. What a thrill that would have been to get a little private performance of Crash of the Crown from Lawrence Gowan.
Oh, I know. But hey, I'll take a conversation with him any day. That was just a really fun treat. I'm so happy that we got to spend some time with him.
Yep. Check out StyxWorld.com for current tour dates as Styx makes its way across America for the summer. We're going to be seeing them in June, and they always put on a fantastic show. So this is something you'll want to see.
Absolutely.
So here's our chat with Lawrence Gowan.
That I was able to kind of tidy the room to an extent that I'm not incredibly embarrassed. But if I was embarrassed, I'd blame it on the Hyatt Regency Hotel in New Brunswick, New Jersey.
There you go.
Yeah.
New Jersey is an easy target sometimes.
Well, it's, you know what it is when I come in the room, right? I just throw everything everywhere. And then I realize, oops, I have to be camera ready.
Well, that's okay. We understand.
You don't want to see the collection of nonsense I have. I have my piano set up, though.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That's awesome.
Always ready.
You're Brian.
Yes.
This lady Sarah. Okay.
That's me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. You have the same last name, and yet you're just complete strangers.
Right. Yeah.
Just worked out. You're Lawrence Gowan, although I feel like since I bought this CD, I have the right to call you Larry.
Well, yeah, when I joined Styx, it was funny. They said, oh, I see you got an album here called Lawrence Gowan, but you can call me Larry. And it was actually Tommy's wife who said, Larry, you're not a Larry, you're Lawrence. It's funny because that's what my family had always called me Lawrence. When I started playing hockey, I remember when I was about 8 years old, my hockey coach was going around the room and said, everybody introduce yourself. Okay, ready? Tell me your name. You know, Billy, here's your name. John, what's your name? Bob, what's your name? Jimmy, what's your name? Lawrence. He goes, what's your name? Oh, hang on. Lawrence is not a hockey player's name. Your name's Larry. Okay, so.
Oh, wow.
That's how that started. And then, so I had a whole faction of my life were all the hockey buddies and who spilled over to school guys that would call me Larry. And then my entire family never called me Larry. There was always Lawrence. And then when I joined Styx, it was a non thing. It's funny because the title of that album came from in the 1980s. For people here that don't know that I actually had a brief life. only 40 years before I joined Styx.
Right.
I had a solo career that emerged in the 1980s in Canada on CBS Records. And it was, in the 80s, many artists were issued only one name. So I had the one name of Gowan, as was the common thing at that time. And then in the 90s, when the one name thing kind of went out of vogue, that album title was suggested. But not even, it was a joke, actually, that my manager, Ray Daniels, who's the manager of Rush, I'd been with him for 14 years, and he says, you're going to have to use your full name on this album. And I said, so do you want me to be like, just go, he goes, don't use Larry, though. That's like, you should try use Lawrence. Actually, he goes, Lawrence Gowan, but you can call me Larry. Which I thought it sounded like a used car salesman line. And I thought it was a kind of tongue-in-cheek, but enough of a self-effacing way, I suppose, to distance myself from that 80s, at the time in the 90s, anything 80s was just really so out of it. It was like you're from the 40s or something. So I used that album title, and it really worked because the first single that came out from that sounded different from what I'd done in the 80s, and radio stations were playing it before they realized it was the one name guy.
And that was Dancing on My Own Ground?
Well, the first single was actually When There's Time for Love.
When there's time for love, I wanna be there. When you've got all night for love, I see you and me there. Well, maybe our time isn't now, but it will come around.
Which was a song that written with Eddie Schwartz and J.D. Souther, actually, from the Eagles. So anyway, it had a completely different sound from what I'd done in the 80s. That's a long-winded answer to tell you that, yeah, you can call me Lawrence, Larry, Gowan, or just, hey, Styx guy.
Sounds good. Well, just so you know where we're coming from, here's all those pre-Styx CDs of yours.
We've got them all.
We've got them all.
Where are you? Are you guys in Canada?
No, we're in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. You just drove right by us.
Yeah, we did. We were just there last night. I think, yeah, we're
Friday
in
night, you were in Ben Salem.
That's right, Ben Salem. And then last night we were in Maryland.
Columbia.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania to get to where we are today. I was fast asleep on that journey.
Oh, good for you.
Well, let me tell everybody real quickly here. I usually say we're super excited to talk with, but in this case, as you are one of our very favorite musicians of all time, we are absolutely thrilled and mind blown to be talking to Lawrence Gowan, who is currently on tour with Styx in support of their new album, Crash of the Crown, which is Styx's 17th record, which is crazy. We've got all those on the shelf too. And Crash of the Crown debuted at #1 on the Billboard Rock Album chart, which is awesome, and very, very capably carries the Styx legacy on into its 6th decade. That's crazy.
Yeah, the band is into its 6th decade. Can you believe it? And I'm in my 25th year as being a member of the band. So it's quite astounding that the band has thrived and survived and done so well for decade after decade. By the way, I do like your choice of apparel today, I must say.
Oh, yeah. Just a little something we threw on.
Yeah,
Just happened to have it handy.
You know that line from... I love that line from It's a Wonderful Life, where what's her name? The good-looking girl that he's always kind of tempted by.
Violet Bick.
That's it. Violet. Violet goes by, and he says, they stop and look, and they go, oh, nice dress or something. She goes, what? This thing? I only wear this when I don't care how I look.
Perfectly. You nailed it.
And then the great follow-up to that is Bert the cop says, I think I'll go home and see what the wife is doing.
Let's do the whole movie.
Yeah.
Let's take this interview we just recite as much of It's a Wonderful Life as we can possibly do.
Oh, don't tempt me. That's my favorite movie.
Clarence, George Bailey's in trouble. Who's that? All right, I can't do it.
All right.
I'll work on my impressions for the next time we chat.
That sounds good. So let's talk about your tour, because you are busy, going from place to place. Last night you were in Maryland. Tonight you are at the State Theater in New Brunswick, New Jersey. That's a beautiful venue. I'm sure you'll love it there. And Tuesday the 9th, you're at the Palace Theater in Albany, New York. On Thursday the 11th, you're at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York. Friday the 12th at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway in Boston, Massachusetts. Saturday the 13th, Foxwood Resort Casino in Ledyard, Connecticut. I got to tell you, we are most excited about Saturday, June 3rd, which is a ways away, but it's at the Freeman Arts Pavilion in Selbyville, Delaware, because we have tickets to that show. We're going down there for a beach weekend, and we're going to check you guys out.
Is Delaware? Yeah, Delaware's close to Pennsylvania. Yeah, you're just a little bit.
It's about a 4-hour drive. So we have a beach house for the weekend at Bethany Beach, and we're going to see you guys on Saturday.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Should be awesome.
It'll be fun. June the 3rd. It'll be beautiful. Is that outdoor?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
good.
We're really excited. And before we get to the questions, let me just tell everybody the website you need to go to check out all the details. Sarah sounds like she just gave like half of the tour right there, but there's a lot more dates. So you want to go to styxworld.com for all the details. And of course, you can follow Styx the Band on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's their handle there. So that's where you get all the information you need to know. Now let's pester him with questions, Sarah.
Oh, good. Yes, let's
Pester away.
Let's talk about Styx, and let's talk about the recent albums, because it was 12 years between Big Bang Theory and The Mission. But then since 2017, you've released The Mission, the Saint Stardust EP, and Crouch of the Crown. What happened to change the band's focus back to recording more new studio material?
Great question. Basically, it wasn't for lack of ideas. We had lots of new things that would keep coming up, and we'd play interesting sound checks, and then we would kick that can down the road a bit, primarily because the music industry was in such, they were floundering, they were in disarray. Let me call it that. At least particularly when it came to classic rock bands, they didn't quite know, what do we do with these bands? kind of. But what had happened was live audiences had figured it out long before. The recording part of the industry, I guess, had worked it out, because people were hungry to see live shows. And we found that we just are doing so much better when we're out playing live as much as possible, playing at least 100 shows a year, going everywhere around the world as we were invited to. And there was just a dearth of focus. A lack of focus as to how you would properly promote records from bands that they began to call legacy or heritage or all these other words that would pop in. And so we released 1 or 2 singles along the way. There was Everything All the Time and a few others, and they were good. We'd put them in the shows, but to focus on an album didn't make a lot of sense. The other thing was this: parallel to that, there was this growing resurgence of an interest in vinyl. And it wasn't just sonically. I don't believe it was just sonically that people were interested in the sound of the old analog things. There was a extended period where people were doing all their own programming, as we still do. We have our phones, we stack the things up, etc. But the album had fallen out of the album as an art form, not so much fallen out of favor. It was just ignored. Let me put it that way. But there were kind of hipsterish guys that were, every city I'd go to, there'd be a vinyl record store that was kind of with guys with, thick black rimmed glasses. However you want to classify them. Here, I can do the look. It was like this. Now you'd go in and you'd ask them.
Oh, yes.
You'd ask the question, and then with great disdain, they'd say, "No, we don't have any Sparks." Right? Well, wait a minute. We do have one, I think. Yeah, okay. So,
yes.
Anyway, that began to shift. And I go into these stores, and I was picking up a few vinyl records. Thought I should fire up my turntable again at some point. That began to shift around, I'm going to say around 2009, 2010, around there, where more and more people became enthusiastic about that, and the album and the artwork and the size of it and the tactile experience of it. I even saw when I'd go into the stores just how much people were enjoying that. And I remember enjoying that so much as a teenager. There was barely a day went by in the week that I didn't stop into. In Toronto, we had a place called Sam the Record Man. I'd stop in there and just go through records and just look at them, and I figure, at some point I'm going to have to get myself a trench coat so I can start. But anyway, concurrently with that, I was noticing that younger and younger factions of people were coming to see the Styx shows. They weren't accompanied by an older adult or anything like that. They were just basically there of their own volition. And this kind of happened at the time when Tommy was making a record with a solo album with his friend Will Evankovich, who had done a Shaw Blades tour with him. And Will is a very accomplished musician, but he also was kind of getting very much deeper and deeper into production. Well, a couple of years after that, Universal Records got interested in the band again, and they had the catalog, all of those great Styx records from the past, and they were interested in doing a new album. And when it was proposed that we do it as an album, right? We need a hit single, or we need something cool that's got a hip hop thing in the middle of it, et cetera, all of which have been very viable ideas. They really wanted a Styx album. That's when things got much more serious, where we thought, we really want to make another album. People are getting interested in that as an art form again. That's come back into vogue. And let's make a concept record. And we took a couple of years to do the mission. It didn't come out until 2017, but the genesis of it began around 2014, 2015. And the other thing was, we gave ourselves the leeway to say, if we don't love it, we don't have to put it out. We can just tell Universal, we don't really have anything. Here's a single. We'll keep promoting, Styx Regeneration, or something like that. But no, our enthusiasm began to really skyrocket, I guess you could say that.
Nice.
Awesome.
And we realized, if no one likes this, we certainly do like it. So we're going to just, see what happens with it. And we put it out, played maybe one song from it at first. Then we began to see, because of social media, this is where this age plays well into it. You started to see more and more requests for, hey, are you going to play Radio Silence? Are you guys ever going to play this one or that one?
Lost, helpless, were words I'd never say until this day. Yeah, yeah. All I get is radio silence, so lonely, no communication. Radio silence, anybody, can you hear me? I need a little mercy. It's gonna take a little faith to see the mission. It all comes down to me.
And we began one by one adding them, taking one in, taking one out. It's very hard. It's a very hard set list to crack, the Styx set list, with anything new.
Oh, yeah.
And have it be accepted and not just be seen as an opportunity to do whatever you want to do. Anyway, then we realized, this has gotten popular enough that we could probably do a show. They wanted more and more people were saying, are you ever going to do the album in its entirety? And that's when we knew we're back. There's enough people. So we did 2 sold out nights in Las Vegas called the Styx The Mission, where we did the entire album. Then we would come back on stage after an intermission and do the expected, greatest hits of the past. And it became a very well-balanced night. And we noticed, I noticed anyway, and brought up the fact that it was the people that were under 40, let's use that as an arbitrary benchmark, that seemed to be most enthusiastic about new music that had come from the band, because they discovered the band in this era. Mm-hmm. And we're in love with that classic rock sound. There's a lot more goes into that, because we really wanted we made the album sound analog and old, so that it fit with the past, not fit with something looking toward necessarily what the new sound of the band was, but really something that was cohesively connected to the classic rock roots of the band. And it worked out well. What was the question?
If your goal was to make it fit comfortably with those older albums, it works perfectly. It sounds like it could have been the follow-up to Pieces of Eight. It's an amazing record. That's
how we felt. We would, particularly towards the end of the record, we would in the studio put on Grand Illusion or Pieces of Eight, Paradise Theater, one of the big 4 albums that came out all in a row there. And we're so successful, and we'd see, is there a uncomfortable bump here where we jump into say Radio Silence was a great example, because we would put that one up against a number of those and realize, no, this is definitely within the realm of the sound is very connected. It sounds like the same band, albeit with new members, but at the same time, we were all kind of on the same trajectory that those records were kind of pointing to, so to speak, and to our interpretation of that. And enough people have made the comment that you just made that I think we were correct in that assessment.
Yeah, that's a fantastic album. One more question about the Mission before we talk about Crash of the Crown a little bit more. I'm one of those hipsters with the glass. I got thick glasses on. I have the vinyl here. But I also like listening to my 5.1 surround mix that I have of The Mission. And I was wondering, because I dig that so much, I was wondering, is there any chance we're going to get Crash of the Crown mixed in 5.1?
Possibly. I don't know. I'm not really in that part of it.
Okay.
I think it's been discussed to do an Atmos mix of it, if it hasn't already begun. I know there was some discussion of that. I know that, I don't know. I hope so.
Me too.
So.
That's cool.
And by the way, I hope you enjoyed being profiled by me when I came to the vinyl.
It was delightful.
Oh, yeah. We don't mind at all. So back to Crash of the Crown. One of the things we noticed right away on Crash of the Crown was the prog sound of many of the tracks.
Yeah.
However, unlike a lot of the prog rock songs, which spend a lot of time musically meandering, Styx prog rock is still concise in length, and it never loses sight of the band's pop music connections. Was it difficult to marry the two distinct musical genres?
Sarah, that is a great observation, because that's what I always thought was interesting about Styx, because they were the first band outside of the UK, to my observation, that were really successful at doing what was progressive rock, at least in its intention. You know what I mean? They had Styx, they were able to do prog, but alongside that, there was a rock sensibility, and there was also a pop sensibility. So the three of them kept jumping back and forth in many ways, not unlike what Genesis evolved into in the 1980s. Those three elements were always there, which is probably why I love their 80s records as much as I love their 70s records, was that the 70s records, particularly in Peter Gabriel's era with the band, were entirely progressive rock, which is what I was deeply into. That was, to me, that was where in my mind, that's what the Beatles had ended off, and given you all the tools that you needed to become a progressive rock band. And then these bands, Yes and Genesis and ELP and all, they picked up on that and let it evolve into what it did in the 70s. But the 1980s, being concise, unlike many of my answers, tended to be of the essence, because video and getting on television. So you needed to they didn't want to play songs, in Canada it was called Much Music, in America MTV. They wanted songs that were roughly between 3.5 to 5 minutes, let's say, for the airtime, etc. And bands tend to evolve and move in directions where people are going to hear their music. That's just it's not a dumb thing to do. But with Styx, those three elements, I was always most attracted to the prog part of Styx. Okay, so what happens in Come Sail Away and Fooling Yourself, and those songs, even when I first heard Lorelei, I heard, okay, it's like the Who meets a progressive rock ideas, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was the first single I remember hearing of the band. But those elements are all important. And to me, I think still the song I'm most proud of on Crash of the Crown is the title track, because we wrote it between myself, Tommy Shaw, and Will Evankovich, and we all have ideas incredibly. It's almost like an espresso machine of ideas, where they had to be condensed down, pressurized, and brought into a very quick but pleasing short little evolution within a song. It's like three songs together in one. You've got three lead vocalists in a song that's still only about 4 minutes long, might be a bit less, with JY, then primarily Tommy, then myself. And the song, it's almost like the football gets passed between that, and there are these sharp angle turns, which is what I happen to really love about progressive rock. It's one of the things I love to say about a song like Bohemian Rhapsody, where Queen aren't necessarily dropped into that prog thing, but they got tons of progressive rock things that happened within that band. And those sharp angled turns, I think, they make for great rock theater. They work so well live, because suddenly the whole palette of the lighting, the whole scene, and the whole intention of the song can take a sudden left turn that makes for great rock theater. So we wanted all those elements to be there, but be concise enough that people weren't going to see us beginning to kind of contemplate our navels and too long.
You mentioned Crash of the Crown, the title track from the new album, and you mentioned Queen. So one of the things that we hear when we listen to that song is, especially near the end of that track, there's a really heavy Queen influence. So we were just wondering, is Queen one of your favorite bands by any chance? And I do have a follow-up question to this.
Yes, they are. And I would say that another thing I observed of Styx early on, way back in the 1970s, long before I ever thought I'd be a member of a band, was that their influences, like I mentioned with Lorelei, I heard the influence of The Who in there, and I also heard great pop bands of that time, almost like the Sweet, or where, there are a few other bands that were heavy on vocal harmonies, kicking in on the choruses, etc. I think that if you're going to make a classic rock record today that has some relevance and significance and rings true, it's inevitable that your influences from that era are going to express themselves, are going to find a way through to express themselves, or be evident. I definitely can take that song apart and say that there are sections that were very much Elton John influenced. There's, with the crash of the crowd. So that's got a very Elton-y thing to it, and yet this whole.
Oh, it's not coming through. The keyboard's not coming through.
Oh, it's not. You can't hear it?
Not very well.
Zoom's shutting off.
Is it too loud or too soft?
Maybe it's too loud.
Okay, let's try taking it down a bit. How about that?
Nope, it's still not working. That stinks.
Oh, boo.
Oh, well, these things happen. So what I was saying was there's an Elton John kind of section in that, nowhere I'm bound with the crash of the crowd. Mm-hmm. And then there's kind of, I can hear very much a bit of a Genesis-y type or almost Yes thing with the piano break that happens in there. And then, yeah, absolutely, that majestic and kind of all-encompassing, lift that Queen would put into their songs is definitely was in my mind anyway when we were doing the end of the song. And a lot of people said, hey, the comments would be that I hear kind of a Freddie Mercury thing. Well, how can you not take that as a compliment?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Styx has always been one of our favorite bands, and Queen is also one of our favorite bands. On our honeymoon, we went to London to go visit Freddie's house and the Queen fan club and Kensington Market and a bunch of Queen sites. So we've always been interested. And another question I've always wanted to ask you, I mean, I didn't ever think I would talk to you, but I was always curious about your song Fields of the Brave on the Styx album Cyclorama, which is a fantastic record.
Sometimes I close my eyes and picture the plains. I see Buffalo Bill and the Iroquois riding again. Open skies, fertile ground. This was heaven on earth that they found. They got what they gave. By their God they were saved. They were humble, but not depraved. These streets we're afraid of once were the fields of the brave. The fields of the brave.
Every time I hear that song, to me, Fields of the Brave sounds like it could have fit right on Queen's 76 album, The Day at the Races.
Yeah.
I just hear that in there, and I always was curious whether or not you were trying to channel Queen in that song at all, or if I'm just off my rocker.
No, you're not. Well, you might be, but I mean, not
Not for that reason.
Yeah, not for that reason. Yeah, I mean, Fields of the Brave, probably. Yeah, very, very likely, very likely. That song began, actually, the first album you just held up there, that Lawrence Gowan, You Can Call Me That. It was a song that I had for that album. That's like 6 years prior to joining Styx. But when I played it for the guys in the band, they basically took it and kind of did their, it got Styxified. So it got other sections added to it, and lyrics were changed, et cetera, et cetera. The chorus was identical to what I originally had, but I would say that that influence was definitely in there without question.
I love that record too. You guys have not released a bad album in this century, so there's a compliment for.
That's nice to hear. That's very nice to hear. It's funny because Cyclorama was that was in that era we were originally speaking of, when it was the early 2000s and we were trying to figure. It suddenly became very kind of accepted that you'd put as many songs as you wanted, because a CD you could put about 20 or 30 songs on there. There was it almost seemed unlimited. It's not, but I mean, you could just everything was a double album. So what I like about the last two records is we stuck to the album format. We weren't allowed to go beyond what a 40-minute cohesive piece has to be. What each song has to kind of fit with the other. And it's one little puzzle that's a certain condensed size. And in some ways, that the limitations of that are part of what can keep people engaged. And I think Cyclorama was a lot of ideas that were, it's almost like two albums. It's 1.5 anyway. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad you still like it. There are songs on there that I think are amongst our best.
Yeah. Yeah, One With Everything is one of my very favorite Styx songs.
One With Everything would have fit on to Crash of the Crown. It probably
absolutely
probably would have been chopped down a bit, but that was the same process. We really, what I was saying, that progressive, prog meets rock meets pop in the middle, and those elements were all very evident in One With Everything.
We alluded to this earlier when I waved a big handful of CDs at you, but you came to Styx after more than a decade as a successful solo performer. And we were just wondering, do you feel that you get enough opportunities to shine a spotlight on classic songs like Moonlight Desires and Dancing in My Own Ground? In other words, do you get enough time to be Gowan as opposed to Gowan of Styx?
One too many pieces missing. Had to learn how not to listen. Now I know I finally come around. Dancing on my own ground again. All that I'd lost I found. Dancing on my own ground again. And I'm all right.
Excellent. When I first joined Styx, I decided in 1999, that, I had the previous year I'd played 140 Gowan shows in Canada and England.
Wow.
And I loved doing that. It was, believe it or not, there was some reluctance when I first joined, when they to think, I don't want to leave my whole solo life behind. I've got, 6 albums. The Greatest Hits record had just been released and it had just gone platinum. And I'm like, I still want to do that. But I realized very early on, actually in the first year, I played a few Gowan shows, ones that we weren't allowed to cancel or postpone. And it was nice to see that right off the bat, some of the Styx fans that had seen me just in the first maybe 30 or 40 Styx shows had come to see my solo shows. And that's back in, like I say, 1999, early 2000. Anyway, but I realized I'm going to burn myself out if I try to do both. It's not going to be possible at that point. But things changed around 2010 because we played in Niagara Falls. There was a place called Fallsview that guys who were booking the show, people booking the show, asked if I would want to do a solo show. They'd had a lot of requests for that. And it was just the right time for me to go, I think now I've got enough of a balance in place with Styx where I could probably squeeze in about maybe 10 solo shows in a year. And Canada, although it's, the geography is as big as America, the population is a lot less. So 10 is actually a good number to go for. And I now do about, I think last year I did 20 Gowan shows and about 90 Styx shows. And those that seems to be a really good balance. And Tommy has made a great comment to me. He says, every time you go and do a run of your Gowan shows, whenever you come back to the band, it's like you bring something new back to it.
Oh, cool.
And I don't notice that, but I mean, in subtle ways, things. And I noticed the same thing when he went and did the Great Divide album. He came back into Styx with a renewed sense of what was possible in future. And it really manifests itself, I'd say, on a song that he has on Crash of the Crown called Our Wonderful Lives, because he plays banjo in that.
Yes.
Monday morning, I'm sleeping in again.
unlikely he would have brought that into the mix had he not done that solo record. So I understand that there is some validity to maybe a great deal to band members going and doing something in their solo incarnation if they have one, and then coming back to the band. So I really do like the balance that I have now with those two things, and I usually discern between the two. I do my solo shows for the last few years anyway, maybe the last 6 or 7. All my solo shows I do in a kilt, and the Styx shows I do sans kilt.
Yes.
What?
Well, wait. That just means with pants, right?
Well, it might mean that.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to see and even meet you in January 2019 in one of those kilted shows. It was billed as Lawrence Gowan Takes Baltimore. Brian, do you remember that?
Boy, do I ever. The fellow that runs that dealership, Mike, was at the show a couple of nights ago. He basically he was opening a new car dealership, as you know, and he turned it into a theater. I said, I'll do it, but it's got a solo, and without my band, right? That was a totally solo show.
Yeah.
Solo piano, which is how I met Styx in the first place, funny enough. Yeah, he kind of turned it into a pretty respectable venue, I would say. And I thoroughly enjoyed doing that.
Oh,
yeah.
That's awesome. Because we still talk about that. The friends that we went with, we still say that was one of the best, most enjoyable nights of music that we've ever had. And
Really?
then we found out you were there again last March. Is that true?
That's not true.
Okay, good. Because we were really sad that we would have missed you.
Hopefully it was a tribute act. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know. You know how the internet is.
Full of nothing but truth.
Yeah.
So I mentioned before, I've been a huge Styx fan for a long time. I was 12 when I bought my first Styx album. But in 2020, I told myself that I have to do whatever I can to support Styx even more than I have, because I so much appreciated everything you guys did for the fans during the early months of COVID. It was a very scary and uncertain time, and you treated us all to a bi-weekly Styx Fix, which involved broadcasting a full concert, which was always introduced by various members of the band each week. And a lot of times after the shows, you guys would hang out and play songs. Like Tommy played Sound the Alarm. Like that was the first time we heard it. He played it after a Styx Fix. And you did a few solo sessions from your house as well. So it was great to have something like that to look forward to on Saturday nights when the world was insane and people were scared. So I wanted to thank you all for doing that. And I wanted to ask you, what prompted all of you to go through the effort for that week after week? Because, that could not have been easy.
Well, that's really nice of you to say. It's funny when we think of that year now, it seemed just absolutely unending at the time, right? And now it seems like a blip to me. It's very weird. It's almost like it feels like it was grade 3 or something. I don't know. Okay, so the first thing is, much like the live shows, we're doing them for the audience, but quite honestly, we're doing them for ourselves too, because we love what happens when you interact with an audience. We just love that experience. We get elated by it. We were elated by it again last night. You'd think it'd get tired, but it doesn't. So when we were deprived of that, being the, what's JY's expression? Yeah, being the chronic entertainers that we are. He said, when I first joined the band, he diagnosed me with CES. He said, yeah. I said, what's CES? He said, you have chronic entertainer syndrome. So anyway, so send in your dollars. No, we really looked at it like, first of all, like what we're doing right now. On March the 1st of 2020, I had no idea what anyone would be meaning if they said a Zoom call. I wouldn't have a clue what that meant. Mm-hmm. By the end of May of 2020, I was very, very familiar with what a Zoom call was, right?
Oh, yeah.
We all were. And we're very adaptable creatures. That's probably why we've survived on the planet so long. And as musicians, we basically found a way to pivot into going, well, how can we still get that, as much of that jam that we love to get from interacting with people, and see if we can use the internet to accomplish that. And then we just began having fun with it. It became a fun thing. It was kind of weird. I suddenly started getting more and more offers from various companies in Canada that had to cancel their conventions, their usual conventions where they'd have a band play. And I'd play at the end and I'd have about 200 people, little boxes across my screen. I'd be sitting at home on my Steinway and basically spending an hour playing and then chatting and then kind of having a very similar to a concert type experience, but in my own home and in my, wearing my socks. Weird. So we derived as much pleasure from it as the audience did. And quite honestly, it really was, I don't use this word too often, but it was touching how people expressed just what exactly what you just said there, Brian, just how kind of they had this grateful thing about it, Well, we were just as grateful for the fact that you were tuning in, It really was the same two-way street that happens in a concert, and we derived a lot of pleasure from doing it.
That's so nice. It was fantastic to have it to look forward to. And even we got super excited.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the ones that you did in French. You spoke French. So we didn't know what you said for a whole hour.
I was trying really hard to remember my high school French.
But we still loved getting, we were trapped at home for the 8th consecutive week, but at least we have a date with Lawrence Gowan. He's not going to speak a language that we understand, but we'll get to hear
the
your
language
strange
of
animal.
music transcended, though.
It was an opportunity to kind of buff up my French a little bit again, because I met Styx in Quebec, and I've always tried to speak. I always speak French on stage when I play concerts there, even with Styx. But wait a minute. So was it that I was speaking French between songs, or was it a concert?
Yeah, between the songs.
Okay, yeah, between the songs. Yeah, that was good. To the English audience, it was probably quite very impressive, and to the French audience, it was probably really painful.
Yeah, it sounded great to me.
Oh, yeah. We didn't know any better.
Thank you so much for your time, Lawrence Gowan. We're getting to talk with you. You're the lead keyboardist and vocalist of the band Styx. You're currently touring for the fantastic new album, Crash of the Crown. Tour dates for the show are available on StyxWorld.com. Sarah is going to ask you one last question, and then we'll let you go take a walk and enjoy the beautiful day.
Well, we are avoiding setlist spoilers because we are seeing you in less than a month. But we are curious, what is your current favorite Crash of the Crown song to play live?
Oh, I like that question. It's been shifting because I particularly like the title track, as I've mentioned before. I love it, listening to it when Tommy particularly sings Sound the Alarm. I really enjoy that one. He's been doing wonderful lives lately. There's none that I don't enjoy, obviously. We all have to enjoy them, kind of to play them. Reveries was really fun. We might bring that one back tonight. In fact, I'm not positive. But anyway, but we brought in a song called To Those, and it was one of those ones that I didn't get a chance to contribute to the writing of To Those, but I did get to sing lead on it, and it's a great lyric, and we've been using that to open the show. And I'd have to say, recently, that's my favorite because it hits. We use as the intro music now, we've been using, and again, no spoiler, but you hear the chorus of Superstars from Grand Illusion, and it's what sets up, and actually it becomes part of the opening of To Those. And that's a great way to kind of glue together the history of the band, the legacy of the band, and their greatest album, or their most successful album, right into a brand new thing. And really enjoying it. And the energy of To Those is really high. And it's just got some great lines in it, The opening line, to those who do survive, find beauty in your life. Don't be afraid of love. It's easier if I sing it. Stand up and rise above. Sorry, stand up and rise above. And then I get to sing the opening line, the first verse line, which I think is just one of the best. If young men could send the old ones to war, there'd soon be peace forevermore. That's a killer line.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a great song.
Oh, I'm so excited now. I was already excited. Now I'm even more excited for June 3rd when we get to see you live.
So, folks, we hope you enjoyed our chat with Lawrence Gowan. Go see Styx in concert. They're the band we've seen live more than any other band.
That's right.
And we always have a fantastic time. Check StyxWorld.com for dates, and then treat yourself to some tickets.
You will not regret it.
Lawrence, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We truly appreciate it.
An absolute pleasure. Great to have a good chance to chat with you guys, and we'll see you somewhere up the road very, very soon.
Take
He's a man after your own heart, Sarah, bringing up It's a Wonderful Life.
I know. That was wonderful.
Just a few minutes into the interview, I'm like, what's happening? We're talking about Sarah's favorite movie with Lawrence Gowan of Styx.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. He was quoting the movie. I'm like, this is great. We should do this. We should just go through and quote the whole movie.
Oh, you would have been happy to do that.
Oh, yeah. But I was really happy to talk with him about everything else. That ended up being such a fun conversation.
Yeah, great to get some insight into the world of Styx. Great to get some information about his solo career that we've enjoyed for so long. I really, really liked what he said when he was talking about prog rock and the prog rock bands that he enjoyed. I really love that observation about how the Beatles left all the other musicians the tools that they would need to then go out and evolve this genre of progressive rock. That was such a cool idea. I never really thought about that before. But
yeah, I hadn't either, but it makes perfect sense. He's absolutely right.
So thank you so much again to Mr. Gowan. I was going to say he made our day, but it's more than that.
I'd say he made probably our month.
Yeah. So we really enjoyed getting to spend time with him. We hope you guys enjoyed the chat. Be sure to check out styxworld.com. And if you have your browser open, don't forget to also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where we like to interact with fans of pop music, rock
That's
music.
right. Yes, all those things. And if you are a big fan of Styx, as we are, and you want to try to catch them on tour, make sure you go to www.styxworld.com for all the details. But in the coming week, they're going to be at the following places. On Tuesday the 9th, they'll be at the Palace Theater in Albany, New York. On Thursday the 11th, they'll be at the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York. On Friday the 12th, they'll be at the MGM Music Hall at Fenway in Boston, Massachusetts. And on Saturday the 13th, they will be at Foxwoods Casino Resort in Ledyard, Connecticut.
Definitely recommend checking them out if that's near you. And if you're near, Selbyville?
Yes.
I keep calling it Bethany Beach. But if you're near Selbyville in June, be sure to wave hi to me and Sarah as we are all rocking out to the sounds of Styx.
Yeah, cannot wait.
In what's going to be a great outdoor concert at the beach. Wow.
Does it get any better than that?
It does not. So thanks for listening. We will see you next time. We're going to finish up our discussion on Depeche Mode's Moment d'Amour.
Yes.
We've thrown 2 interviews with you in between part 1 and 2 of that episode, and that's just good fortune on our part. We had these opportunities to have some conversations that we were really excited about, so we hope you enjoyed them as well. But now we're going to get back to Martin and Dave and the latest Depeche Mode album. So that's on the agenda for next time.
Cannot wait.
I'll see you then, Sarah.
All right.
Let's go.